Right, good evening, everyone. This is the June curriculum, co-curricular athletics, and pupil personnel meeting. It's typically on a Tuesday, but due to my travel, I am appreciative of everybody here today for accommodating the change in date and time. We did have a conflict with the personnel service department, and so they're not here today, but we have a packed agenda nonetheless. I am going to get started with the curriculum documents, the first person, which is a rarity. The first chance to speak is Mr. Monroe on the business law curriculum. So Mr. Monroe, all yours.
Thank you. I didn't print out enough for everybody. No, you got it fine, just for my colleague across the table. I know they're terribly disappointed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Bora. So business law is a practical arts elective at the Monroe Township High School, in our business program. And it's open to students in 10th to 12th grade. And we recently decided to update the curriculum. Well, this was actually a complete rewrite. Because the last time it had been rewritten, the standards were simply out of date. New Jersey has, as we've discussed at many meetings, New Jersey has really doubled down on their emphasis of developing what they call CTE programs, career and technical education programs. And the reason for that is they're just trying to ensure that schools are making students aware of the preeminent jobs and career paths that are going to be available in the 21st century. So the first thing we did, and on the document in front of you, and the reason I didn't color code it, not the way things, but I wanted to emphasize which standard really drove this document. And you can see how the state has really started to specify within the content areas how they would like us to address some of these topics. And Miss Deanna Dale, who's been teaching this course for a long time, many years, I have respect for her. But for a long time, and I used to teach it with her back in the day, and she did an excellent job rewriting it, and a couple of the points of emphasis that she wanted me to talk about tonight, other than just ensuring that the standards were up to date, which are obviously the most important things any curriculum document, but all documents within the Department for Career Technology or our practical arts program are founded on what the New Jersey Department of Education calls career ready practices. And there's a dozen or so standards that they believe are the foundation for anyone preparing for post-secondary transition, whether it be college or full-time. And so we start there when constructing our business electives, and then we move on into the specific content areas, which again, we're grateful that the state, historically, the electives sometimes had broader standards that we had to use to drive our curriculum, but the state has really been more specific with how they want us to teach these career and technical courses. Obviously, a lot more technology in here now than there was previously, and really the way we utilize the iPad specifically and some of the other technologies is to look at law journals, case studies, and some of the other various programs and simulation services that are in all of our business education platforms. Increased emphasis on business ethics and some of the updates to laws that have occurred since we last wrote this curriculum. There's been a lot, particularly when we talk about some of the commerce laws and the financial sectors, and even the way that public institutions are governed. So it's nice that we can take a look at some of the business aspects of those organizations and talk to students about careers. One of the misconceptions about this course is that it's only for students that are interested in studying law professionally. We also talk about legal services that students are entitled to. We have a wonderful collaboration with the Monroe Township Police Department, who historically has been a part of the teaching of this course and coming in and talking to the students about legal services protections and what rights they're entitled to as not just consumers, but as potential entrepreneurs and business owners and employees of other organizations. And we go into some of the more social responsibility aspects of the legal industry and how it affects businesses and their day-to-day, and how it also impacts costs and the management and personnel decisions when you hire. So it's a fresh look on some of the aspects about about organizations that have to interact with the legal ramifications of entering into business transactions or any type of agreement. What we've seen specifically in Monroe, and why we think this course is nice specifically to Monroe, is that many of our students at the high school have the entrepreneurial spirit. And whether it's starting your own business, and we've seen it through our various co-curriculars and organizations, or going to work as interns or even as paid employees at 16, 17, and 18 years old. There is a hunger for students to engage in business, whether it be financial, marketing side of things. So we like the idea of letting them know that, you know, what the rules are, so to speak. All this course naturally lends itself to all of our co-curricular activities offered at the high school, including that of the economics and finance team, our on-track program, FDLA, and the newly approved sports management program. So many of those organizations or CTSOs have competitions, and business law is always one of the categories that we make sure that we can support those curricular extensions as well. Our cross-curricular attention always tends to lean into the social emotional learning aspects within the business lens, but we're not aware, that's where we really look into the ethics and some of the private consciousness that occur when living in the legal arena. But that's pretty much it. It's all access. All types of learners thrive in this classroom. We're prepared to teach everyone, whether you're going to 4 years full Ivy or you're ready to go to work right away. It's a class that is accessible to all learners. So any questions?
This is considered practical arts credits.
That's correct.
And ninth graders cannot take it in the 10th, 11th, and 12th.
That's correct.
And have we done this class trip to the Superior Court in the past?
We haven't gone since COVID. So a lot of the experiential learning programs we have not been able to resume since COVID. But obviously we can slowly finding our way back into it. A lot of the experiential learning opportunities are through the co-curriculars, but we have been clawing our way back into it. I am happy to report that we are actually increasing our section offerings in this course next year. For the past couple of years, high school's only been offering 2 sections at about 30 students apiece. Next year, we'll be offering 3 sections at about 25 to 30 students. So excellent. It's nice that we have the capacity now to expand our offerings to students on that respect.
And all these things select or what's the criteria to include them?
Sure. So usually right around March or February, depending on your grade, students will meet with their counselors. And once they're slotted into the courses that they need to maintain their graduation track, they'll have the opportunity to select electives. This being one of their practical arts options. So what we like about this course is that our business course sometimes gets pigeonholed into being open to students that are exclusively college bound or that are looking for honors or AP experiences. But we all know that many students that want to learn about business or study business, may not, want to operate at that level of rigor. They want to be more exploratory. So this course is open to all learners, and they will, if that is an experience they're looking for, the counselor will explain to them. The top of this document is exactly what the kids would see when they log into our program of studies document. And we'll have that conversation with the student. We have a couple other business courses like this that are full access, open to all learners. And the idea is that the counselor will have a meaningful discussion with the student and get them into a course that lines up with their goals.
So, if they self-select.
Yes, sir.
In essence.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And they can actually do it through Genesis. So a lot of times they'll have a conversation, they'll go home, talk with their parents, and then they can go into Genesis and say, you know what, business law sounds like it's a course for me, they'll lock it in. And then when the counselors run the reports, hopefully this year, since we're able to offer that additional section, everybody that wants it will get it.
And my own concern is that kids at this age, many don't know what they want to do. I know that. And you find quite often students who decide who don't do well in high school, those students end up becoming lawyers. Somehow, somewhere, and I know many examples of this, and they just take off and they do quite well. So, my only concern, that's my concern, is that I think it's great that you're going out kids self-select. I think it works very well for that. But I'm always concerned about those few kids that, just don't get involved in stuff.
Well, yeah, and that's why with these, I agree with you. And that's why those conversations with all the stakeholders are so critical. And this year, the high school did a great job of updating their program of studies documents. So that information is readily available. But at the end of the day, we hope that those conversations aren't limited to what's occurring in the guidance office, But you'll notice that these types of classes, they'll never be a prerequisite. So whether you've never taken a business course or not, whether this is your first practical arts course or not, let's say you've been a math science person your whole life and then you said, you know what, maybe law is something I'm into. You know, this course is there for them senior year if they want it. They've never taken a business course. And it's important, we believe, in practical arts to have courses like this in all content areas, whether it's culinary, wood shop or anything like that. And the high school has done a great job of managing the schedule in a way that allows us to creatively build out those opportunities for the kids. But, oh yeah, we're fully aware that many times, you know, even, I mean, how many times do students change their undergraduate course of study at the college level?
Yeah.
So, you know, that's why it's important to get the information out there, to update it, to make sure that the courses reflect 21st century times and hopefully keep getting the information out there and connecting the kids and making them self-reliant. But I agree with you.
Next question, about electing the course themselves and scheduling it. Thank you.
You got it.
And I'll reiterate what you just said, that it's not just a conversation between the counselor and the student. Given how intense our program of studies is, it's definitely a conversation the student needs to have with the parents a few times before they finalize, you know, their choices in the schedule. And some students are so driven, they know beforehand exactly what they want for the next 4 years. And some students probably need a little bit of, you know, just going through it and exploring with, and parents can help at that point. So our program of studies, as much information as the administration can spread, starting 8th grade, parents do have to be involved, and something that everybody should be looking at through the 4 years of high school.
We spoke about this a little bit last night,
Yes.
with regards to Jamesburg, you know, and unfortunately, the high school, that document that they built doesn't get the credit it deserves, because that was a massive project. It's on their homepage. It works like a wiki page to like navigate through their courses. But, you know, 5 to 7 sentence course description isn't enough, you know, no matter how well we can write it up. So we hope that those conversations are extending beyond the program of studies, and we have run programs at the high school, like they call it, elective rush, where it's almost like an elective fair during the cafeteria times. The students can come by and talk with the teachers, and more importantly, the students who are in the course at the same time. That's been an effective mechanism, but yeah, no, there's always, we can always do more to educate the students on what's available.
So thank you so much,
My pleasure.
Mr. Monroe. Anybody else have any questions of this, Ms. Russ, you're up next.
Good evening, everyone. My first document that I'm going to share with you this evening is one of our science electives. It's astronomy and aerospace that students are welcome to take in grades 10 through 12. One of the reasons that we undertook this document is that we now, this is going to be a full year course. Initially, 2 half-year courses of astronomy, one of astronomy, one of aerospace. We decided, since the content really does go very well together, we will streamline it into one full year elective course. So the students will be able to start with the historical importance of astronomy, discussing constellations and what it meant culturally to so many people that came before us. Then also talking about the historical importance of flight, everything from the Wright brothers to the launching of Sputnik. There will be some explanations of gravity, Kepler's law, looking at the geology of the Earth and the Moon, the movement of the tectonic plates, meteorology of the Earth, the physics of flight, which is actually really interesting, the science behind how do you actually fly. Propulsion guidance, and the students will take a look at this GPS work. Earth's solar systems, which is traditionally what we think of more with astronomy of planets, stars, evolution, black holes, galaxy, and cosmology, which looks at Big Bang and the creation of the universe. So this is a really great elective that students can take if they're interested in this. And it really gives them a really good background in, as the program of study says, gaze at the stars with the excitement of engineering with the means to reach them. So it's a really nice course. Does anybody have any questions?
I have 2.
Sure.
Why don't we offer it for freshmen? That's the first question.
Just Typically, most of our electives, we'd like to have freshmen have their first year science under their belt, and then they progressively can take more. It also sometimes becomes challenging for students to take electives in their freshman year without that science background.
Okay, so that's generally for all electives.
For pretty much for all science electives.
And when you were offering this as 2 half-yearly, was there a choice to just take astronomy and not take aerospace?
Well, typically what happened is they would take astronomy for the first semester. Their second semester would be the aerospace. There was some choice they could take astronomy and forensics, for example, but typically, due to the nature of the content, students chose to take them concurrently. So we put them together.
Okay, all right. Anybody else have any questions?
Just real quick, I don't know if you said it and I missed it. This is to start in September of 2024 or?
Yes,
Okay.
so this
Full
is,
year.
right now, it's still running semester courses for half-year courses starting next year. It'll be a full year course. The students were aware of that when they made that selection.
Thank you.
A follow-up question. So the forensics that you mentioned, right, that's still a half-year elective?
If you were going to see that document shortly, that is going to be, we do not have any more half-year electives in science. All
Okay.
progress to full-year courses.
All right.
So that document's going to be coming up next.
Sounds good. You can move on.
Okay.
Our next document, is our honors chemistry. That is for grade 10. This document, we needed to update to make sure that we were aligned with the 2020 New Jersey Student Learning Standards for science. Honors chemistry is a challenging course. It's more abstract in nature, dealing with atoms, molecules, and those molecular structures that are not necessarily obviously visible with the naked eye. So we have several units that we cover within the honors chemistry curriculum. Chemical reasoning, which is really the introductory unit where it looks at things like measurement, units, significant figures. The structure of matter, which is going to examine the various states of matter and the interactions. Atomic structure and properties, which looks at the parts of the atom, mass, formula, atomic radii. Molecular and ionic compound structure, that gets into ionic covalent bonding. Intermolecular courses, that's dealing with hydrogen bonding, gases, vaporization. Chemical reactions, which is chemical reactions and everybody's favorite part of chemistry, stoichiometry. Up after that is equilibrium, where we talk about things like Le Chatelier's principle. Thermodynamics, which deals a lot with heat transfer. The applications of thermodynamics, such as Gibbs free energy. Acids and bases, where students actually do titrations and examine what's a weak acid, what's a weak base, and then finally kinetics. So it's a really broad look at chemistry and all of the applications that come with it. Because it is honors, there is more mathematical rigor using algebraic skills to be able to solve problems. The other thing with chemistry in general is that it is definitely a building course. You really have to understand the earlier units to be able to apply that information to the following units. So once you learn how to solve, molar mass problems, that's going to keep coming back consistently because you need those skills to be able to move further through the coursework. So you can see that even in the way the units are constructed, you can see those foundational skills and then it moves through to more challenging topics.
I did have one. Charlie, you first.
Criteria?
The criteria is, I have to open the program of studies. Typically, there is, typically, a lot of students, they have to have a completion of honors biology or completion of chemistry with a 90 or above. And they've had to have completed algebra 1.
Is it multiple criteria you apply for this process?
Those are the criteria. And then, of course, there is teacher recommendation. And then the students do have the opportunity, if they meet those, to waive that recommendation as well.
I mean, I like what you're offering. My only concern would be, the foundation of problem solving, was the process. And how do you make sure those youngsters who come in have that ability? Because normally they start at lower levels and there's all kinds of strategies involved in problem solving. How do you check to make sure that without that foundation, you're gonna get frustrated?
So one thing that's important is this is not the only level of chemistry that's offered. So if students feel that perhaps, critical thinking and problem solving is not something that is a strength yet, they can always opt to take the traditional chemistry. And then, or for those students who are really looking to extend themselves and want to really dig in deeper, they can take honors chemistry. And the teachers are there to support, but some of it is definitely having some of those critical thinking skills, some of which is built upon in honors biology as well. So they start their ninth grade sequence with biology, which does focus on problem solving and critical thinking. It's just a little bit different because sometimes, as a former biology person, I can tell you that it's sometimes easier for kids to see things like ecology. Chemistry deals so much in things that are so small, and to try to visualize and then apply, that could really be where some of the challenge comes in.
Thank you.
Mr. Based on what you said, so if a student in freshman had taken lab bio, they automatically don't qualify for honors chemistry?
No, they can, if they had a certain
Grade in,
grade in lab biology
okay,
and teacher recommendation.
teacher.
There's always the ability to try to
Okay.
make it where it feel that
So
you're
that
ready.
option is open.
The option is open.
Okay.
However, we do strongly recommend that due to the nature of this course, that students are really ready to think critically and really be ready to look at mathematical calculations. Because even though there is math in biology, it's definitely not the same as chemistry.
When was this course last revised?
I'd have to look it up. I want
Typically,
to
the
say,
cycle is 2 or 3 years.
oh no, it's a little bit longer. So,
So that's got to be before the
2022.
standards. So
Yes.
the 2020, so we're in 2024, but we're aligning to the 2020 standard.
Correct, because those are the newest standards that the state has
When
provided.
did the state come in with it? Does the state have a cycle? Yes and no.
Yes and no.
Correct.
Sometimes.
When they want to.
It's just, I feel like we just revised it, and now next year they come out with a new standard,
Yeah.
which is
So
drastically different.
one good thing is, in looking, and I don't, watch I say this and everything changed. Typically, year to year, the really great thing is for science especially, they really stay aligned to the next generation science standards, which are nationwide. So typically, even if they come out with something new,
Already
it's not
there.
like we have to throw every document we've ever written out, because in the long run, yes, science is full of innovation, but you're still gonna learn about atoms and molecules and cells. So
Fundamental
that's-
blocks don't change so much.
yeah, so that's the one good part.
Math and language arts had 2016 set of standards that were aligning to the New Jersey standards when they changed them over. The latest update they had was supposed to be August 2023. They never fully adopted them, but the plan is for this summer. So to give you an idea, that's like about, a 7-8 year time difference.
Wow.
And we haven't really changed a lot, but they were tweaking things. Mine had fewer changes, I think, than Kelly's did, but that gives you an idea that for us, but do we know when the next one's gonna be?
And we're one of the better states in the country.
So-
And that's a long
This has been
And
passed.
so we've gone and done a presentation about curriculum, kind of how it flows down, and how mandates and standards flow. So standards have a pretty long duration cycle, but what you do see more frequently are mandates coming through our legislature. So you see the legislature may, require us to teach about ticks, right? One of our newest mandates is tick education. So we have to integrate
The bug.
learning about ticks and tick
I
prevention.
thought you meant like Tourette's.
No, the bug.
That's why I said the
I
bug.
think so, like,
It's the bug.
this is
Yeah,
bug.
I think so. Take me for learning that too.
I don't, I was like.
You can talk.
So we're in the process of finding where that appropriately meets based on
Where?
what their expectations are. And what we'll do is we'll do small adjustments in our big documents. But that's where you'll see kind of some of the smaller things go through that are more frequent as opposed to the national and or state overhauls. And it's not even an overhaul sometimes. Sometimes it's a resequencing or renaming, reclassifying. So
Thank you.
that's unrelated to anything we're approving now. That's, and we can revisit that sometime in the future. We have a nice
That's good
presentation
to know.
on
Thank you.
how that all flows.
Thank you. Anybody else, any questions on, yes, go ahead.
First, I commend you, this curriculum is great, and, can I enroll in it? I would love, I love this stuff, okay, that's number one. Number two, my concern is simply is, well, you put together this dynamite, and I could, you'll probably get a lot of really bright kids who are gonna enter into this program. But what happens, how the kids exit, let's say you get youngsters in the program with the student who are having some difficulty. So you're always gonna run, and get a whole group of kids in, and then for some unknown reason, you get one or two that don't belong in the program. How do you move them? What do you do then at that point? Because we don't want to kill their self-esteem.
Well, there's a couple of things that are already built into the operation of the high school. So one of the first things that I always recommend to students is that we have a tremendous support network within the school with the amount of after-school support that we have. Students who are struggling in science, once a week for each discipline, there's a certified science teacher that is staying after school that is able to help them with those difficulties. I don't want to speak with broad strokes because typically the building principal will look at each case on a case-by-case basis. So it really depends on several circumstances, how students are doing. But if students come to me and say that, we're really struggling, that first line of defense is going to that after-school help, seeking help from your teacher. And even we have National Honor Society tutoring. So there's a lot of supports in place that students can do.
We can move on to the next one. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm now going to turn to my social studies hat and discuss psychology. Psychology is an elective that we offer in grades 10 through 12. It is considered a social studies elective. However, you do need, just so everybody knows, a psychology certificate to be able to teach psychology. So that is a separate certificate from a standard social studies certificate. Psychology, we rewrote this document to be aligned to the 2022 American Psychological Association's national standards for high school psychology curriculum. This is definitely, I think for a lot of students, a very interesting elective that they really kind of get excited to talk about. So the first unit is Scientific Inquiry and Research Methods Foundation. So one of the things that's really students in this first unit is what is a good research method? And B, really what you're going to see interweave throughout this course is the idea of ethics. What is ethical, especially when we're talking about mental health? And what is experimentation? How can that be ethically done when we are talking about this science of psychology? So they really do look very heavily at what is an appropriate research method? What are the rules that people need to follow if you are going to engage in research of this kind? The next unit, I think some students are surprised, but we move into the biology of behavior. We do have to have some understanding of the nervous system, completion, perception, your brain, the parts of the brain, and the genetic component of inheritance. From then, it moves into cognition, looking at memory, intelligence. Then development and learning. So I think everybody remembers Pavlov's dogs. classical conditioning, looking at learning across the lifespan from infancy to, adulthood and old age, and then language acquisition. When we're in the social and personality psychology portion, it's looking at motivation and emotion and what goes into personality. And then the final unit is really where it's kind of the culmination, looking at mental and physical health. So students examine clinical psychology, therapeutic approaches, again, bringing back that ethics piece. They also do take a look at psychological disorders and possible treatments for those. So it's kind of a really nice course because I think it gives kids insights into, themselves a little bit and certainly the greater world around them.
I was always curious as to what they cover in this topic. Is there a state standard for it? Because it says that it's American Psychological Association standard.
So it does hit on some of the social studies standards, but for the most part, psychology courses, you're following this as the standards. Because they're put out by that organization. And there really has been a tremendous effort by that organization, again, to really have students have a deeper understanding. I know I keep saying it, but, the ethics, some of the things that have gone on in past experiments that wouldn't be allowed now.
And it's a very popular course, Ms. Ross. And how many sections are we offering? And there are a whole lot of students that are not getting it.
We're hoping to change that. So this is the psychology course. We also have AP psychology.
Yeah.
So this year we're running 3 sections of AP psychology, 2 sections of standard. We are hoping that next year we will have 2 psychology teachers. So we will be able to have 5 sections of AP, 5 sections of psychology.
That popular, huh?
That popular.
Anybody else have any questions?
When you say you're hoping for next year to have more teachers, when you're saying, for me, I'm thinking September. Are you
Yes.
talking about 2024?
Yep.
Okay.
It is, just so it is one of the hardest, courses to be able for some schools to run because it does require a very specified certificate. So, the social studies supervisors at the state have actually, been discussing with the state what the qualifications might need to be to change to be able to run this course differently.
Any other questions?
None.
Okay.
I love that I'm sitting in Ms. Balco's seat, but Charlie's sitting in my seat now. I have to look at Charlie and kind of ask him about questions.
Yeah, he asked a lot of good questions.
Yes.
So, this is actually not a curriculum document. This is actually a new textbook adoption that we are looking to be able to have for September of this school year. This would be for our Honors World History and Honors World Studies, book. Our book right now is, a little old. So we are definitely looking to take the opportunity to be able to, get an updated version. So the committee chose Savas World History Interactive. There are wonderful resources in here. The teachers really, who were on the committee, really raved about the way that this text covers the topics that we do within our curriculum for world history, as well as the tremendous amount of support that is offered to the students when they're examining primary source documents and trying to answer some of those document-based questions. So this has a lot of that built in. There is also some nice scaffolding for those students who might need some additional support, whether it be through reading or just trying to digest some of the heavier content. Students will be interacting with this in a completely digital format. So it is a digital text, the digital pieces are built right in. It is on the Savas platform, which students are very familiar with because we have it for so many other of our technology and our books. And what we're really trying to do is help students to make those real world connections. So there's virtual walks, quest assignments that students can use, and really, again, trying to give that piece of history through the people who actually lived through it. So it was a really well done. So choice.
So I do have one question. So when we adopt a new textbook, what impact does that have on the teacher's lesson plan? And are the teachers part of the adoption process?
Yes, so how this book was selected was it was all the teachers, almost all, the teachers who currently are teaching honors world history and world studies. So we sat down, we had several publishers send us their resources. The way that I kind of approach it is I say, let's look at how is each one of these textbooks covering the French Revolution? What do we feel is going to, give us the best perspectives, the most diverse perspectives, and really give the support that the kids need.
Any other questions?
I got it.
You don't have to apologize. I get it.
Whenever you select the book, now this is for honors too, but the reality is that textbooks don't teach teachers.
Correct.
And this textbook, where you're going with a special population. So obviously, as I read the information, this has differentiated units for kids that might be on a higher cognitive level, right? So I just want to make sure that, they looked at a whole bunch, but unless they go through it and read it, I'm not sure. A lot of times, I made a wrong selection or something of that sort. How do you make sure that doesn't, I don't know.
So the one nice thing is that exactly what you said, in textbooks are really just one additional resource that's in a teacher's toolbox. Especially for history, you can assign readings out of there. So that's where some of the tools that we're talking about come into play. But through many of the teachers who've been teaching this course have been here a very long time. I won't give out how long, because they'll be very mad at me. But they've been here a really long time, and they really know what they're looking for their resource and what is going to be a good fit for our style of instruction.
Brilliant, thank you.
Is there somewhere I can see the cost?
Oh, yes, I apologize. Was that missing? Yeah, I'll send it right over.
So everything is budgeted. This is something that made through the budget defense process. It was embedded in this year's budget. And this is the time of year they've been looking at, in general, any textbook adoption. They would have spent the better part of this year implementing the free resources that were administered by the publishers that we reached out to. They've had in general, and the scope of the interaction with the teacher depends on if it's a K-5 adoption. It's a lot different than a, isolated course in the high school. But the stakeholders are involved. They're testing out resources. They're engaging in the digital resources. They're looking at it from the student perspective, the teacher perspective. They're weighing the ease of access all the way through the quality and the meaningfulness of the resources. So, and again, we can certainly, this is another topic that we actually did a presentation at the high school, or at the library one time and kind of talked about curriculum adoption and textbook adoption. So we could certainly revisit that as a base foundation. It's good to kind of cycle through every few years as a refresher, but we do have a process in place. You see the form is a standardized form that goes through. And whether, like I said, whether it's a several $100,000 6 school, 5 grade level math adoption, ELA adoption, or a 1 class elective with 30 digital resources, the process is the same. It's the scope of who's involved varies. And sometimes the amount of resources that are out there varies as well. We found that some of our high school courses, the tools we use to teach are collegiate books, which is an entire different animal in dealing with the same publishers we deal with for a K-12 piece. as soon as we start talking about a collegiate level text, it's like they're a different person that we're talking to. So, right, I'm looking at you.
Marking it, Sam.
And I'm looking at that.
Yeah. Yes, so
He
more,
likes to argue with our publishers, it's not time.
so moral of the story is, there's a thorough vetting process. Stakeholders involved, there's always a consensus decision. Certain people, and certain stakeholders have preferences for certain resources, but we make decisions that's best for the students and the staff as a whole. So,
And you always start out bound by a budget, which has been predetermined. Before you even start on that topic.
most things are relatively consistent when we look at the scope and the scale of what we're looking at. And we do get some, I would say, different looking numbers when we get up to those collegiate textbooks. Because it would be sticker shock, well, if you have a student in college right now and you're looking at college textbooks, there's no discounts for us at a K-12 level for a book like that. So when you're looking at costs for our K-12 books, the collegiate level books that we're looking at are usually significantly more expensive.
And they don't like to sell us collegiate books to be even these new sales for that.
I actually have it. It's $104 per student edition, and that is for 6 years. So once we buy our total, we have that for 6 years.
Yep, and that's actually a pretty common term now. It's most agreements are 5 to 6 years, in which we engage. A lot of the books are digitally grounded, which in the science field is extremely helpful because if the science world changes a little bit, they can tweak to be current with their needs. In the business world, with the modeling and stuff that Mr. Monroe talked about last week with some of his courses, it's real time. You don't get stuck with the, 17, 18, 20-year-old resource, we can have up-to-date current.
The macroeconomics course we're doing this summer is a perfect example. Policies change so frequently that, and our ability to teach about it changes so frequently that it becomes difficult to design a curriculum around it. So, these rewrites and getting computer science is another perfect example, evolves at a pace much more rapidly than a textbook could ever keep up with. So these digital resources become a solution.
Absolutely. Great example. All right, any other questions from Ms. Frost? Thank you, Ms. Frost.
That's
Number two? Sure. We will move on to the MTMS update. Dr. Higgins.
Hello, everybody. So first thing we can talk about is, of course, we'd like to offer next year to all of us graders, called Champs. And it stands for character, habits of mind, accountability, motivation, planning, and self-esteem. So, as we do every year, we start having conversations about what our building looks like, what the needs of our students are. The needs of the students we have today is much different than the needs of the students when we moved into building 2011, socially, emotionally, academically. Things students are dealing with or have to learn to deal with today, students in 2011 did not have to deal with. So we started having conversations, what does this course look like? What should be included in this course? Smith, this is Pat Smith, one of my vice principals, the great vice principal. She took the initiative to start looking things up. So what you did find is on the state New Jersey website, they have the 2020 New Jersey Student Learning Standards for readiness, life literacy, and key skills. And when we start looking at this, we said, this is exactly what we're looking for. Because we want to help the students be able to, number one, transition into the middle school, because we have students coming from three distinct elementary schools, all great schools, all great kids, with their own personalities. Now we have to take them and put them into one large middle school. So I'm going to read the mission statement that is on the New Jersey BOE website for these learning standards. Career for the people outside. Career readiness, life literacy, and key skills education provides students with the necessary skills to make informed career and financial decisions, engage as responsible community members in digital society, and to successfully meet the challenges and opportunities in an interconnected global economy. So when we saw this, we started thinking this is exactly what we're looking for. It's standards-based, the standards are on the website. So the way we see Chance is it's a package of skills that we have identified that will benefit all students as they transition to the middle school. Study skills, rapport, which is an average-based package of study skills, critical thinking, problem solving, teamwork, character education, collaboration, are examples of key skills students need for success that will be covered in this course. Chance is a course designed to address the natural evolution of the needs of our students that was once met through the PBL course. The project-based learning, critical thinking, and problem solving of PBL will not go away. Areas of focus and need for this course were identified over the years with input from various stakeholders, inclusive of parents, teachers, and students themselves in the school and hearing all their concerns. So even we had Tuesday night and last Thursday, sixth grade orientation, and a lot of parents are nervous with their children coming to such a large school. And, you know, he's not organized. He doesn't know how to study. How can you guys get him ready for the middle school? So now we have a mechanism to help them without having to do it in math or language arts and social studies. We could do that here. This will be a standards-based course that will incorporate state standards in areas of financial literacy, character ed, career readiness, and life literacy, just in review. So this is our vision. It will have to go to written as a curriculum. Ms. Smith has put together a framework. We had our 5 teachers have a professional day to collaborate on Tuesday, thank you, and start fleshing out and looking for resources for this course. So that is my one potential.
I love how the abbreviation opens up character, habits of mind, accountability, motivation, planning, is that distinct. I just had a couple questions and then I'll pass it on to the other board members. The PBL piece is gonna stay. The world language piece, is this like a year-round course? Because PBL used to alternate with.
Right, so this is
world
a
language.
year-round course. The tenets of PBL will be embedded, the project base
In
and all
that,
that.
right,
Spanish will be going on a cycle in the 6th grade, and it will be a full year in the 7th grade. So now, between
Okay.
6th and 7th grade, students actually get 5 marking periods, whereas right now they get 4, so they're actually getting extra world language out of the
so
situation.
the students that do band or chorus will not get the cycle.
No, but they will get the same as they're getting now, because that 6th grade is more of an exposure, so they won't miss a lot, and they'll get the same 4 marking periods that they would get if we didn't make any changes.
Yeah, also, Ms. Moore, so chorus is in place of the cycle, band is 0 period. in French.
Band, oh,
Yeah.
thanks for the
Band works
reminder.
the same way,
Yes.
it does in the elementary school, it's the chorus, but it's 6th grade.
And that they come up at 6th grade orientation, and we discussed it.
Got it.
But they're not missing anything, they're just getting their 4 marking periods, all in 7th grade instead of 2 and 2.
Everybody else is getting extra.
Yes.
And the curriculum is gonna be written over the stuff.
Correct.
Who's got questions? Yes, Sean.
Just trying to understand. Please forgive me if you will. And I'm reading here, it says make informed career and financial decision necessary skills. And you're starting at a what grade?
6th grade.
6th grade. I don't know if any youngster, I mean, I understand quite often you want to give kids exposure to a variety of different enterprises or different programs. And by doing that, hopefully down the line, they can make decisions. But at 6th grade, I don't know if the brain, the mind is really at that level where they can have the ability to make these kinds of decisions, at least from the research I'm aware of.
So,
I'm not sure if it is, but just, but I'm not, I mean, here's a program you're giving us, but where's the research in this program? What, you know, what is it showing? Is there any kind of information about the program that says, yeah, this program has been used, it's been this successful? And, yeah, I'm just trying to understand, the program itself.
Well, it's not a program per se.
How effective it is.
no, it's not a program. This is, these are the state standards.
So, I don't.
So I'll try and answer a couple of questions.
No, by all means, please.
So right now in 6th grade, financial literacy, and Ms. Gasko, correct me if I'm wrong, is mandated, and it is already some of the standards in PBL. So they are covering some of the financial literacy piece in 6th grade.
Okay.
We just finished a 3-year career education grant that started with 6th grade 3 years ago and went to the 7th and 8th grade. It's more about exposure. We know, for the most part, 6th grade, you'd be surprised, a couple might. Most 6th graders don't know what they're doing, so it's more about exposure at the 6th grade level. And kind of just telling them what's possible out there. Because believe it or not, the 3 years in middle school do go quick, and a lot of our parents right now have an idea where they want their students to go. You know, they already know they want to, in 6th grade, they want to set themselves up for advanced math, advanced science. So,
I'd like to add something to that, though.
I can speak to the financial literacy.
No, I wasn't even gonna speak to that, though. I want to speak to it as a whole. So removing the concept of career readiness, because I agree with you, a sixth grade child, depending upon their level of maturity, could be anything from extremely mature, I'm ready to be a medical doctor and I can't wait to get to Harvard, to still going home because they need mommy. And I totally understand it. I think it's very true of most sixth graders. I think if we were just to take the word career readiness and just put it on the back burner for a moment, looking at this particular course, it's not a program, it's a course. It is embedded in quality best practices because one of the things that they're going to be utilizing is the core strategies. Writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading is something that has been around for over 25 years through the AVID program. So the AVID program is something that we're very proud of that we have in this district since 2009. And it just means advancement via individual determination. And basically, some very smart people out there took some best practices, packaged it into a program, and then provided it predominantly at the time to inner city children at the time who were extremely bright but weren't afforded opportunities, whether it be due to financial inconsistencies in their home or lack of literacy throughout their parents' opportunities, basically saying their parents did not go to college. So when this program was developed, we had a superintendent many years ago in 2009 who brought us to this district and said, you know what? We have middle level children. They may not be in the same detriment of the inner city children. We have children that could aspire to do even greater things. Like you talked about earlier when you were saying how the children don't even know and then they want to be in the elite in college, but in high school they weren't, exactly what you said. So basically, we are very proud that we make the program work for us. It's not about certification from the state. It's not about certification from the AVID organization. It's about taking best practices. And that's what we mean by core. So what we did was we stopped and we started having this conversation. We thought about it years ago. PBL, which means problem-based learning, was something that we brought. I was the principal when we had an opportunity to look at math. Our math skills at one time were extremely at a deficit. Our math skills were now they're excellent, but at one time they were very low. So we stopped and said, why? What can we do differently? Let's give them an extra period, but we're not going to just make it about math. We're going to make it about analytical thinking. We're going to make it about working in groups, partnering, having an understanding of working in a dynamic, how, like an astronaut, how 4 people work together for success. And out of that came PBL, which incorporated the financial literacy as per the state requirements. So basically what this is, it's not a program. It's not about quantitative data because you talk about that a lot. It's not about, they come in, we give them a pre-assessment, we give them formative assessments, we give them some assessment. That's not what this is about. This is about a course in which we're going to still hit all of the skills that were given in PBL, but take it to another level. Something as simplistic as even character education. Many, many years ago, we had a character education course actually in the middle school.
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
Character education. We used to have true character education, the pillars of character. They were all over the middle school. We no longer have that class, but yet we know that we have children that we would like to make good citizens. So when you have a class like this, and maybe career readiness is what got you singled in, it's when we say career readiness, I would really like to call it life readiness. How do you act when someone says good morning to you? How do you work when you have to work in a team? How do you get something done? How do you utilize an agenda? We spend the money fiduciarily, our citizens spend the money to give every child an agenda. I'm a big agenda girl. So what does an agenda mean? So one of the things in this particular class, and I would almost call it life readiness and life literacies. So the skills we're giving them, they really do need in sixth grade. Because when they come to us in the elementary, they don't really know how to focus themselves, not just on analytical, but really on the life skills of being a student. What does that look like? Being able to work in a class. So this class is taking the PBL to the next level. So I think that it threw you off a little bit, it would throw anybody off when you see career readiness. But I will tell you, we also have a career readiness program that's done extensively. It starts a little bit with, dabbling in the sixth grade. They had also a 3-year grant, which has been fabulous. And then in 8th grade, they actually do a program in college and career readiness online, which then goes out to the high school. So I'm excited about this because it's like, I think in this particular class, it's not about, we won't be able to quantify this. This is not who's in accelerated math, science, social studies. This is more about a relationship that's going to be created between the teacher and the children coming to us. And I think you said it best. My child does not know how to study. My child does not know how to publicly speak. My child does not know how to work in a group. My child does not know how to organize themselves. My child does not have good writing skills. So that's the point of this class.
So this is a course.
It's a course. Correct.
And how many kids would be involved in the course?
Every child would take it,
Sixth grade.
so in the sixth grade.
Every
So
sixth grader would.
every sixth grade is on a team. They take science, math, social studies, English language arts, and they'll have this class. And then they have a cycle where they cycle through different courses, and that's where they'll get their world
So
language.
what comes out of the program? If this goes in, what comes out?
TBL, that's what we've been saying here, problem-based learning.
But
It's
you're
expanded.
putting in PTS, which will, in fact, this course will take it to another level.
Exactly. They're actually taking the PBL that was started 11, 12 years ago. I'm looking at you because I don't remember what year, 12 or 13 years ago.
I'm sure for more than that.
No, when you ever came over.
2011, when we moved in.
2011, thank you. So 13 years ago. So we're taking something that helped children work in groups, be responsible for analytical thinking. We utilized a lot of things from NASA. We did the financial literacy piece that's required by the state, but it's taking it to another level because since COVID, we are also seeing a deficit in children's ability to really perform on a daily basis with strategies that incorporate organization,
Yeah.
teamwork.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just want to give Mr. Moraldo a chance to speak.
On the financial literacy piece. Sure.
Yeah, no, so, because that question gets asked a lot, even to some of our, we have many freshmen that take financial literacy, and a lot of times on back to school night, the parents will ask, well, you know, my son's too young, or daughter's too young to learn about financial literacy. And what they've shown is that financial literacy can be taught through multiple lenses, which is why a few years ago when the mandate came and it was integrated into middle school, Ms. Gasco and the social studies supervisor at the time very strategically embedded those units, those state required units, into the grade appropriate courses. So for example, in sixth grade, we would probably be teaching a little bit more about consumer science and saving strategies, right? You know, if they're earning a small income on the side, or how to use their birthday check more appropriately. And then as they get older, the lessons become a little more age appropriate. And then as we get to high school, we start, you know, obviously we start talking about jobs and things like that. But so, yeah, no, we're not expecting them to calculate or amortize or anything like that in sixth grade. We don't even get into insurance discussion.
No compound interest
No,
problems.
not yet.
You know, some children
You
can
don't
teach
tell me
about
it works in this town, as we've seen.
Yes.
But that's, you know, that they were, and that was a very arduous process to try to very, tactfully and strategically integrate those financial literacy expectations alongside the content that was already being delivered in those classes. And, you know, my presumption is that's going to happen the same way.
Thank you.
Ms. Alvarez, if you had a-
I just wanted to know, is this being taught by math teachers?
No, it's being taught by any teacher.
It's being taught by previous science teachers, previous social studies teachers, a couple of math teachers, yes, a previous BBL teacher.
And it's
So all previous PBL teachers were different disciplines, or were they all math?
Up till now, they're all, it's we call it PBL math. So it's been
Was PBL.
math based.
It was math based in the past.
But it's not math-based
It's not
anymore.
now.
It's more of a holistic approach. And we confirmed with Christy, because this is not a requirement, this is our over adequacy model here, above and beyond. And we really felt when we sat down and we met and you brought it to me, we really felt that having a science teacher or even if a social studies teacher is really a good take on this because we're really also looking at the expressive literary skills. And if I had my way, I was an English teacher, I would have the days in literary. Because I just think that's a critical, you know, the critical thing, not taking anything away from that. So we confirmed that anybody who'll be teaching is excited about it.
They are very
They're
excited.
excited, have the proper certification and we meet all the state requirements.
So what happens to the math teachers that are no longer teaching PBL?
Oh, well, they were offered either a math position or this position.
Yeah.
No.
No, no one was unemployed. Everybody
Nobody's
has a job.
attacking.
Everybody else.
The course was designed by within the school system, so we designed the course.
Yes, they're still working on it, actually. They had a professional day to work
Yeah,
together.
okay.
But they're also, they actually write the curriculum. And what's nice about this is that it may be a science standard, a math standard, a social studies standard, a literacy, financial literacy standard. It's a compilation of many things because it's not a requirement by the state. So it's not like it's above and beyond English. It's above and beyond math. It's above and beyond social studies, above and beyond science.
I personally had 3 children take PBL and from what I remember it wasn't challenging from a math perspective. It was about, you know, using math in life, right? And project-based and working with your friends. So if this is building onto it, I absolutely am very excited about this idea. And I think what's speaking to me the most is that Avid was limited to a small group of
Thank you.
students.
And
you're
everybody's
taking
gonna get these
whiteboard
strategies.
and You're introducing the entire sixth grade to a very
Very good
particular
start.
skill, which so far we have not been able to do. So I'm excited about that part.
And I should have said that. So one of the things when I went to, Jim and I said, and Pat, you know, we have, and we've said this over and over again, Avid has, because it is a program, has been delineated for a specific group of children that meet the requirements and meet the criteria. But what about everybody else's child that could benefit from Whipple? Now everybody's child's gonna get into sixth grade.
And once they get that initial exposure to it, they can build on it, even if they're not part of that program in seventh grade. and eighth
Correct.
grade. But they've been, it's just about exposing the child to something that clicks and then.
It's best practices, that's all it really is.
One of the teachers is one of our avid elective teachers, so she brings that expertise.
Excellent. Okay. Any other questions on Jan's? All right, we can, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And should we go to the ELL three-year plan? Dr. Roselle?
All right, so every 3 years, surprise, it was 2 years this time. Districts enrolling one or more multilingual learners are required to complete a 3-year plan. And that 3-year plan really takes more of an audit type of lens, where there are about 127 different questions that we are asked, and we review various sources of data. So we look at our student information system in Genesis. We have some of that data. I look in Elevation, which is my data management portal for my multilingual learners. The New Jersey performance reports, and Mr. Feldman was able to help me extract some more specific reports from NJ Smart. So there's myriad data that is required for us to complete this plan. And the goal, it is a regulatory requirement, but the goal is to help districts make sure, one, they are in compliance with New Jersey's ESL bilingual code, but that we're also in compliance with our federal code, or federal requirements. It asks questions about how we evaluate our program, how our students are progressing. And when I say our students, our multilingual learners and our exited multilingual learners are progressing toward graduation. What is our average 3-year graduation rate? Are they meeting the ELA and math indicators on NJGPA and ASLA? Are students exiting ESL in the time frame that they should exit ESL? Looking at how we are spending our Title III and our immigrant funds as well, and that we are evaluating our program. So this plan was completed 2 years ago, and that is because they pushed pause during COVID. So it was supposed to be completed in 2021. The plans were actually completed in 2022, but instead of starting a new 3-year cycle and having us completed in 2025, they kept on that cycle. So we were informed in May through a DOE broadcast that this was due. So just to give you a little context, the outcomes of the last time this plan was completed in 2022, we adopted Elevation, which is our data management portal. It allows teachers, ESL teachers, administrators to see at a snapshot the languages represented in their building. How many students are in their building that are multilingual learners or exited multilingual learners. They're able to see the proficiency levels of students as well. They're duly identified students. So we have students who are multilingual learners who are also being served within IEP. So that was one of the outcomes. We also began to review our registration process with students at the high school and how we review transcripts and award credit. We have created an incredibly collaborative process when we get students in from other countries so that we can award credit for the classes that they've taken, but also leveraging option 2 and giving them high school credit for lived experiences and work experiences and things of that nature to ensure they are on a pathway to graduation. We've leveraged Title III funds to provide after-school support on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the days that we have courtesy busing, so that students have, particularly our multilingual learners, have small group tutoring and homework help from ESL teachers and occasionally content area teachers as well. We have increased the number of multilingual learners who are earning the seal of biliteracy. And again, that's through leveraging our funding and paying for students to take the assessment in school. This year, we have 5 current and 3 exited multilingual learners who will graduate with the seal of biliteracy. So it's about 20% of all of our students who are graduating with the seal represent that group. And we've also provided additional information on 2 child study teams about how to incorporate the English language specialist, which is the ESL teacher, when they are making decisions, and some resources in helping them to determine if a child's particular challenges are a manifestation of their language proficiency or if there is a suspected learning disability. So those are the outcomes of the last plan. Based on this plan, I know that we will be preparing for a second bilingual waiver, probably this time next year, in Telugu. Right now, we operate under a bilingual waiver in Spanish. Anytime a district has 20 more speakers of a particular language, we go that route. It has also helped me to understand the rapidity with which this group is growing. So
Did you say
because it is
Telugu?
a 3-year plan, yes.
That's a bad, yeah.
Yes, that is our second most spoken language after Spanish. Just to give a context of how quickly this is growing, and again, this data came from this report. We closed out the 21-22 school year with 100 multilingual learners, 95 who were in a program, 5 parents who were declining services. Last year, we were at 154 multilingual learners. We will close out this year with 201. These students come to us from all over the world with different educational experiences. And I am incredibly proud of the program that my team has built to support these learners. We are continuing to really self-reflect and assess and make sure that we are meeting them where they're at, that they're represented in the different programs that we have available, extracurriculars, and things like that. So that is what this plan is. When you see it on the board agenda, I actually have to submit it through forms on DOE homeroom. Lots of questions, lots of data. That is the intent of this plan.
Thank you, and I hear that you had to do it on a very short
Yes.
notice this year, so thank you for the hard work.
The state.
It is very impressive, whatever you just shared. I am, like you said, very proud of the diversity and the adaptation in our system, in our school district for accommodating the needs of all types of learners. And thank you for that. I look forward to that report. Any questions? Yeah, all right. All right. We have 2 more things and they're both,
They're all related.
Yeah.
Yep. So I just want to draw a connection. So elevations, which Dr. Rizal just mentioned, is one of the renewals we have.
There are 2 elevations.
Correct.
Yeah. What is,
Yep.
what are the 2
Do
different
you want
ones?
to highlight what the both are?
Okay,
up for
so
renewal?
elevation has 2 different components. The first component is a data management portal. It is where we store all of our multilingual learner data that pertains to language proficiency, their test scores. It is where we send out the state required letters to parents. It automatically translates those letters into whole languages, things like that. It is the portal teachers access to get data for their multilingual learners as well. The other piece is called elevation strategies, and that is used by teachers. It is really a professional learning tool. This year, it was really more the ESL teachers learning to use it, and some administrators using it to push out strategies. What is really nice about it is if I am, let's say, a high school science teacher, I log into elevation strategies, I can select a particular topic or skill that I'm teaching. It levels that activity based on my students' proficiency levels, and everything is right there, kind of ready to go. Provides information for newcomers, very basic to more advanced, but that's the difference between the 2 portals.
Thank you.
Yep. So I know we have short on time. So what I provided you, this is a little bit of a talking point regarding the multi-tiered system of support. I'm going to speak just generally to it. We won't have time to go through all the talking points that I was kind of trying touch base on. But what I tried to do kind of two purposes is give you a very high ceiling look at what the multi-tier system of support system looks like, what it is. I'll make some connections to what we're working on within the district. And then in some of the parentheses, I included relationships to some of our renewals. So I wanted you to see the connection with this project to some of the things that we already have in place, and we've had in place for years. And they're the core of our data gathering, our assessments and things, but I wanted you to see them kind of in action. Again, we won't have time. We got 4 minutes to get through a lot of this, but what's important to understand is the multi-tier system support is a way for us to put an umbrella over a series of processes and interventions and instructional strategies and techniques and supports for students that we have in the district. You've heard of response to intervention, RTI, you've heard of INRS, all the acronyms you can think of. MTSS is a way for us to pull them all under one umbrella and point them in the right direction, in the same direction. A lot of times you have interventions and supports that are working in silos and meetings that occur for similar purposes. And down in the bottom left-hand corner, I put some expected outcomes of this work. And we've worked on this with the American Institute for Research for about 1.5 years or so. We will continue to work on with them next year. And what's important to think, this is a cultural change as much as it is an instructional change, as much as it is for procedure, process, and efficiency changes. This is a systemic, deep impact on what we do. So this isn't as simple as, here was your textbook last year, here's your textbook this year, change what you're doing based on this resource, which is very, binary. There's cultural, systemic beliefs that we have in education and in instruction that teachers and administrators and educators have been doing for years. And aligning, reframing, restructuring all these processes is a massive overhaul. So that's why I said 4 minutes is not going to give us time as in terms of our work. But what are we looking for, short term and long term? We would expect to see some level of increased instructional and planning time. And the reason I kind of highlighted that is a lot of the work we're doing draws attention to where we may need to look at scheduling, whether it's an elementary daily schedule, whether it's a middle school daily schedule. In order to support our students at various different levels, we need time built in the school day to do that. The interventions we provide are in addition to instruction that's already occurring. That's how we close gaps. That's how we support students. It's not pulling them out of something to give them something else. It's supporting them in addition to what they're already getting. So that's the kind of illusion or the focus on instructional planning and time. More efficient use of resources and staff. Through this process and through the work we're doing, we're looking to, it's as simple as shorten the time we spend in meetings. If we're spending 3-4 days sequentially to meet with a building's level of teachers through grade levels, that's not best practice. Best practice is come with the information, come prepared, and not that people are unprepared. Talk about the right information, be prepared to share interventions and plans, share the data, and we move on to the next process, the next step. So it could be as simple as efficiently using our time, which then helps us in terms of sub-coverage, gets our teachers back into the classroom for more instruction, all the way to instructional resources. We've done the past few years a lot of professional development to focus on the tools we have and how to use them, like Dr. Rosell just talked about elevation. There's embedded differentiation in one of the tools. How do we effectively have teachers implement that? There's embedded differentiation in our elementary math program, our elementary ELA program. So how can the teachers spend less time creating stuff on their own and use the research-based tools that we already have in place? So when we talk about efficiency and effectiveness, that's one of the things we're looking for. And then some data-based things that we're looking for. We're looking for decreased special education referrals and placements. There are different pathways to move through the special education referral process. One pathway is through MTSS, one pathway is through an INRS. There are direct referrals. Under the umbrella of MTSS, we will probably always continue to have referrals, but what we would like to see is a reduction in referrals that historically maybe didn't have that data that we now have in place with the interventions and structures that we're putting in place that might lead to meetings, testing that don't result in classifications. So we want to see potentially less referrals, and if there's referrals, are those referrals leading to the classifications? Because if they are, then those students were properly identified and supported along the way, and that's where they should be. And, you know, we're monitoring the numbers. Now, we're working with the state in that work. We're working with the American Institute for Research in this piece. And again, this is a tremendous project that we're working on. It's deep. It goes deep into all of our grade levels, elementary, middle, and high school. All three tiers are in different places because they had different interventions, different protocols, processes in place already. This is the 30,000-foot summary of what we're doing, just to kind of emphasize the depth and the scope of the work. Credit to Ms. McLeod, Dr. Wazell, and our entire administrative team. This starts with leadership. So the first meetings we had with the American Institute for Research focused on the leadership teams. They focused on creating a common language, our base of understanding. And as we roll through, interventionists are brought in, they get specific training related to their tracking, their process, and their meeting efficiencies and things. And the majority of this work, and if we look at the tiers of support, the first tier is everyone. All students are included in this. So that the core of that is differentiated instruction. And that is one of the goals for the middle school next year is differentiated instruction school-wide. So we see the tenets of this multi-tier system of support reaching every level, every classroom, every teacher at some point. Again, I'll say we're early in this process still. We're making tremendous leaps and gains in certain areas, and we're working through scheduling challenges, operational challenges, resource challenges in other areas. But this is just an overview of our tier system of support, and the majority of our renewals today are related to things that we use here. So NWA MAP is a renewal. That's something we've had for 10 years. It's our universal screener. It's our kindergarten screening tool. It's a reading fluency screening tool. We use it for placements in programs, different programs. We use it in the classification process, the data gathering process there. We have another piece on there today to link it. So Dr. Rosell talked about the one piece specific to the ELLs. This is a district-wide data gathering support tool. So basically what it is anybody that comes and needs information on a student has to go to every individual location to sign in, log in, search, find the information, pull it down, put it in its own spreadsheet that they're creating. Link It is the tool that brings it all together. We sync with it nightly. We have our core information. The interventionist use it as a tool to monitor intervention plans. So they have goals for their students that are in intervention. They track the data embedded in there. And then moving forward, we're looking at teachers directly inputting data into Link It starting next year. And also having teachers log in and be able to pull broad reports for their students. We don't want them in the weeds because they have enough different focus on differentiation and lesson design, but we can pull and set them up with beginning of the year baseline data reports and things like that, so they can get a profile and snapshot of their students. Trying to see if there's any other contracts on here that we can link to it. I think those are the two major core ones that we had on there.
And these are all federally grant funded.
Yes.
Have been for the last two years.
Correct, that's a great point. So we are working with federal funds right now. These are all federally funded that work with the American Institute for Research, as well as Link It are federally funded. NWA MAP is embedded and has been embedded in our budget for probably 10 or 12 years, maybe even longer. We have historical data for our high school students that go back to the first time we took this. We missed one administration in COVID, but we did administer after that. And we can see historical growth data, and that links and helps us with projections for NJSLA, even SAT projections and stuff. It gives some kind of broad, and theirs is research-based, so they're a national company. All our growth and achievement norms that are standardized. It's great. It's a tremendous resource for us. The teachers have had and are asking for more and more instruction. We have a few courses at the elementary level and our year-long PD next year that Ms. McLeod's going to be training our trainers for those courses coming up, I think, in the next few days. And these programs mostly for approval tonight are the core of our instructional NTSS program and our data progress monitoring.
Have you completed 2 years of the MTSS adoption, or is this the second year, or has it been longer?
This is year 2.
This is year 2.
Yep, so we did some groundwork that first year. We made some, let's call it data monitoring progress changes. We are in the process right now of formalizing a manual. We have decision trees in place. Part of last year's work was to create decision trees for each different level of middle, high school, and elementary. So, as students work through and teachers work through challenges, there's decision trees that guide them to make decisions that filter them into different support systems.
I'm amazed because a diverse district like Monroe that has learners at every rich level, they need the whole spectrum. Not only does this improve efficiency in administration, it's so useful for every child to ensure that no child is left behind and not everybody be put through the same mold. So it's a great program, and we're lucky to have the funding, and I hope we can continue to use the benefits of the.
Yep. And we have talked, we'll revisit this. Again, this is very high level talking. We can bring in what it looks like in middle school, elementary, high school, and where we are in the different process in those areas as we move through the year. This is not the last discussion we can have.
I know we're all out of time, but if you guys have any questions, you could send them to Dr. Lehman
Yep.
later. But I appreciate the great synopsis. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah.